of the elementary version, but the characteristics really stick out. I went ahead and through the years, I've worked with knowing a lot of different characteristics of mammals. So, what is a mammal? A mammal is a higher animal that has a body with hair or fur at some time in their life. They have mammary glands, most of them do. Mostly placental birth, which means they actually are in uterus. The babies are in uterus, protected and fed inside of the female. Number 4, most people don't realize, but this is a typical, pretty standard mammal characteristic, that they have 7 cervical vertebrae. And in terms of the spine, where are the cervical? In the neck. Okay, so 7 cervical vertebrae seems to be pretty much a characteristic of mammals. Now, some people in trivia games and so forth, they ask you about giraffes. They have to have more than 7 cervical vertebrae, right? Well, no, not really. They have up to 10 inches vertebrae. So the vertebrae can be almost up to 10 inches long, but they still have 7 cervical vertebrae. However, there are a few, the tree sloths, I think, vary between 5 and 8, and some species of manatees actually have a different variation of 7. But the majority of them have 7. Warm-blooded, we've got the warm-blooded with the birds, and we have the warm-blooded, which is also called endothermic or homeothermic. 4-chambered heart. Remember, birds had a right aortic arch. Mammals have a left aortic arch. Again, you have to think of it being in you to know what right and left is. And number 7, I would say an increased cerebrum, which is the thinking part, also the initiation of muscle coordination, and also sensory. The cerebrum is the largest part of the brain in humans, and there tends to be an increased cerebrum in mammals. Number 8 might be kind of interesting to you. Oldest branches of biology, and there are a lot of things that haven't changed a whole lot in terms of, if you pick up a zoology textbook from the 1970s, you're probably not going to find, other than phylogenetic stuff, you're not going to find much difference, because anatomy, there might be some upgrades in physiology, but they're not going to be pretty much. In the body, and they seem to be characteristic of mammals, having 3 bones, 3 small bones in the middle ear. So that's another characteristic. Also, the presence of a diaphragm muscle. Well, it's got ligaments and tendons in it too, which separates the thoracic chest cavity from the abdominal cavity, and it increases the efficiency of the breathing process to get oxygen into the body and carbon dioxide out. to support an endothermic or homeothermic metabolism. So the diaphragm is actually a mammal characteristic. I don't know of any other animals that have a diaphragm, but I'm not saying there isn't, but I'm not aware of it. Also, single bone lower jaw. It's also a mammal characteristic. These are like weird things that you didn't necessarily think of. Now we're going to see differently in different types of mammals, but that is a mammal characteristic. Hello. Hi. And you have a handout to don't take the picture. And also, another characteristic is that mammals tend to have a first set of teeth and then a second set of teeth. In other words, you have deciduous teeth to start with. Remember when we were babies, we all remember losing teeth, and we had the tooth fairy come and leave us money under the pillow for the tooth that fell out. Deciduous leaves are leaves that fall off a tree, and the deciduous leaves fall out. So another characteristic is that mammals tend to have two sets of teeth at different times. They have one, which is a juvenile type, oftentimes, and then replaced by another set. But then, I wish they'd grow back when they got pulled, but they don't. That's it. You don't get any more than two sets. We need to talk about weird groups of mammals in terms of how they bring their young into the world. There's actually a group of animals called the monotremes. This is a duck-billed platypus, and by the picture you can kind of see why it's called a duck-billed platypus. It's the only mammal, well actually the tiny anteater is too. So those two are the only mammals that lay eggs. And the top are the only mammals that are venomous. I guess I didn't know that.
Actually have a bit of venom as well.
Moles do? Okay, so I'm not sure about that statement, but again, kind of a brief version of that. We know that the duck-billed platypus and the spiny eater is not the same as the regular eater. Monotremes. And so they lay eggs. Monotremes, what happens is they lay eggs, and then their hair follicles on their belly of the female actually start secreting milk. And so then the young will lap the milk up off the abdomen, the hair. They don't truly have mammary gland nipples, but they do produce milk. I want to go to the back of that page down here. Marsupials, that's the second weird group in terms of how they bring their young into the world. Young are born in an immature state, and they complete development in a pouch. I think they're born like just a couple of inches long, maybe even smaller than that, and complete development in the pouch. So these are the pouched mammals. And kangaroos, koalas, wallabies, I'd like you to add one, although there is a few other times all the marsupials except the opossum. We have the possum. And they are marsupials. So they have a pouch. I'm trying to think. And so they're born premature, they climb into the pouch, which is where the mammary glands are, and then they spend their time completing their development there. Don't try to pet a mother possum. Yeah, well, it's probably a good rule not to try to pet any mother anything. they're not right. You know what I mean? A raccoon or anything else has got young, they get very defensive and they're very young. And possums can be very, okay, so go back to the first page. The Artiodactyla. I love their cute little pictures. That's a cow, of course. These are hoofed mammals. What? Maybe I should have looked at this a little closer before. Can I use these? Okay, they've got these properties. A cow has period, right? So it has an even number, the two is an even number. The odd number would be like the man that was first period. And usually have over the, so if you look at the page, look at the page I gave you, look at the page. It's a frog, but it's not an amphibian. It's just sort of this
Little V kind of thing.
V-shaped structure in the middle of the underside of the hoof. And it's softer tissue, and it's called the frog. I've never seen it do that. I've been kicked, I've been thrown off horses. And my back, I'm sure, is part of the reason why my back sometimes is. I remember one time I was really stupid. In my teen years, I was really stupid. My horse was in a pasture, and it was on a hillside. And I didn't even have a halter on the horse. I just jumped on the horse straight on. And of course, it's on a hillside. And there were trees at the bottom of the hillside. So I got thrown. She threw me. I still feel it. Okay. Some of the adventures. But anyway, wouldn't have traded it for anything. Maybe getting thrown off, I would. The horses. Rodents. Remember, we saw the interesting thing with the color-coded, more of a phylogenetic connection is that the rodents are actually in the group they're closest related to the primates and to the lagomorphs. So rodents, lagomorphs, and primates come from a common ancestor. I'm not saying you're rodent right, but the main thing about rodents is that they have two incisors on top and two incisors on bottom. And the really fascinating thing about rodents is that they're used to picking rodents all their lives. And that's, if they gnaw down your house, it's not their fault. They have to gnaw or else their teeth go through the skin. You want them to gnaw on something else. You don't want them to gnaw on something else. You know, but they do. They have to
Get 'em a stick.
keep gnawing down their teeth.
Just caught two mice within 15 minutes of each other last night.
Really? Wild mice?
They were in the house, but yeah, wild.
Wow.
And dumped them outside.
Oh, gee. Figure out where they're getting in from.
Well, I didn't think they'd be coming in this time of year since it's warming up. I thought they'd be in a couple months ago.
Never know, I guess. But squirrels, of course, hamsters, things like that, rats, hamsters, ferrets. But squirrels that are so cute, they're also rodents, and also chipmunks. And they can, particularly the chipmunks, can destroy a foundation of a house pretty easily. Because I know people who feed the chipmunks outside, and they love to feed the chipmunks, but you have to take the risk that they might start pulling away the dirt at your foundation, and they actually, can find a weak spot, and you may have a leaking basement eventually. Lagomorphs, great picture. Double row of incisors. So they're different from rodents because there's a double row of incisors. Hind legs, of course, are longer, adapted to hopping. Carnivorous that eat other animals. They have very large canine teeth. We have 4 more sharp incisors on the side and 2 down here on the side, but they have a mouth pretty much full of canine teeth. Generally meat eaters, the panda bear is an exception. Most carnivores are actually omnivores, like bears, dogs, and so forth, eating a little bit of plant material too. Omnivores eat both plant and animal, but carnivores are in a group of themselves, includes the bears, the raccoons, dogs, cats, all of those. Primates, big deal is the opposable thumb. Because if you'll notice in most mammals, you don't have an opposable. This thumb actually opposes the hand, which allows you to grip things. This was one of the biggest developments with primates, along with the bigger cerebrum for thinking, to allow to use tools. So that's a big deal. And they usually run in social groups, use tools, chimpanzee, human, gorilla, orangutan. Then we go to the ocean. And, sometimes people will have a bumper sticker on their car and they'll say to take some pictures. That's the result where they bounce. Dolphin things. The dolphins are not as intelligent as people. And they seem to have a communication system among other dolphins. Proboscideans. Somebody with a big nose, I'm sure, somebody has said to them, "Oh, you have a big proboscis." My dad had a very big proboscis. Okay, so it's a trunk nose. Proboscidea is a trunk-nosed mammal, so these are the elephants. And they have tusks, they can have, and of course because of those tusks, a lot of times they're actually hunted. There are 2 types of elephants: Asian or Indian elephants and African elephants. And I'm tending to think this is an Asian elephant, because the neat thing about the African elephant is what? They're the shape of the continent of Africa. Their ears.
It almost looks identical, the shape of the continent of Africa. Talk about mysteries of how that would happen. The marsupials we talked about, pouched mammals, Parasadactyla are the hoofed mammals with an even number of toes. So the horses, the zebras, the rhinos. I have to admit, I did not know, assuming this is correct, I did not know the horn of the rhinoceros is actually tightly wound hair. We probably need to check that, because we've had another mistake here. But I did not know that. It's kind of interesting. The Xenartha, also called edentata, because an E also in front of a word as well as an A means the opposite. Dentate, denture, teeth. So the toothless, reduced or absent enamel on teeth. The armadillo, the sloth, the anteater. Chiroptera. Anybody feeling batty today? Be careful, bats are not birds. Bats are mammals. And they use also like a sonar or echolocation for night hunting of mosquitoes and other things. They're actually good to get rid of insects. The only problem is that they can scare people. They come out of nowhere.
Garage door too. One even got into our basement.
Yeah, that's not a good thing. And they can carry diseases, and they are also susceptible to rabies. So if you have most bats will not attack you to be attacking you for fun, because you're a pretty big mosquito. Or fruit, they're fruit bats too, that eat fruit. They have like fingers, but they have the membranes connecting the fingers, and they have other adaptations to be able to fly. And of course, they're primarily nocturnal, and they hang upside down during the daytime, usually in a cave or some sort of protected area. And it is true, they do, since they hang upside down, they do urinate on themselves during the day. And that actually helps with temperature regulation. It helps to cool them off, because the urine being on their bodies evaporates off and cools, has a cooling effect. The guana, which is the fecal matter coming from the bat, the guana is harvested in caves and is used for fertilizer and other things in bat caves.
It's in a lot of makeup, almost all makeup.
Really? Guana?
Yeah, especially mascara and eyeliner.
Everybody's excited, aren't you? Okay.
Unless you buy vegan makeup, it's probably in your makeup.
Yep.
That is.
So they don't list it as guana,
Wow.
as bat guana or anything, do they?
No, I don't think so.
They camouflage the name, the ingredients probably.
It's probably whatever they extract from the guano, whatever protein or whatever
Yeah.
they get from it.
And then it's sterilized probably, so you
Yeah.
don't have the bacteria that you would have in fecal matter. Insectivora, insect-eating, digging mammals. Teeth structure differs from rodents, and the shrews and the moles and the shrews, and they're very tiny. I think the tiniest mammal is the shrew, which is only a few inches, a few inches long. They burrow in the ground. They're usually almost blind because they don't have a lot of need for sight with their tunneling. And another animal that has convergently evolved to the water is Sirenia. And I think this is interesting, you remember this, that the name Sirenia, siren, comes from sailors who thought the animals were the sirens from Greek mythology. And so these are the manatees, and the sea cows. And I know I have some good friends that live on Merritt Island in Florida, and they have a canal that comes up in front of their inlet, behind their house, and I've been there when the manatees have gone off the canal.
My mom can literally sit at Manatee Springs at the zoo and watch those guys all day.
I love manatees, and
She thinks they're so cute.
they are, they're really so ugly, they're cute, I guess, is really what you say. But the problem is they become, I don't know where they are officially on the list right now, and we may find that out in these next chapters. But the manatees population has been reduced because they swim just under the water, and the motor boats with the rotary, they rip the skin off of
That's
them.
what happened to Betsy at the zoo. She was
What happened?
debilitated there, and she got scraped by a boat.
I'm pretty sure all the manatees there are rescued. Cause we lost, like they rehabilitated one in Tennessee, wherever.
Well, I've been there, we could go
Yeah,
back.
exactly.
The King County Fair performs during common season outside of Florida that have to be rehabilitated program.
So they're aquatic mammals, they do not have blowholes and are found near shorelines eating vegetation. And it does say, yeah, they're endangered because of boats that are found. Okay, so those are some of the orders and some of the differences with the orders. So Grace actually did this out quite a while ago, and I went ahead and put it on the PowerPoint, so it should be there. And then for chapter 56, Brittany did that one, so it should be there for the outline. And restoration ecology. And the next chapter is called Conservation Ecology and Global Change. Climate change is having babies. I'm serious. Somebody actually said that. That somebody, some state has elected. And it was interesting to read it because I was trying to figure out how in the world he gets there.
And I guess it was just the premise that if we have more babies, then we'll have more innovators in the world than what we have today. Because I was first trying to decide, is he thinking that more babies are gonna absorb carbon dioxide, which I was trying, because I figured most of these people have no idea about photosynthesis and cellular respiration and how that all goes. But as another
very popular congresswoman said. Popular, I mean, she's in the news all the time. Okay, I'm not saying Democrat, Republican, doesn't matter. Is basically saying, we now have proof in our different minerals that are in this to make its own food. Ecosystems range from microcosm, which would be having to see it microscopically, such as an aquarium, to a large area such as a lake or a forest. Dynamics of the ecosystem involves two main processes: energy flow, we know a little bit about that, and physical cycles. What does the word restoration restore? Energy flows through ecosystems, whereas matter cycles within them. That's a pretty important statement right there. Energy flows through ecosystems, whereas matter within them. Remember, a lot of energy is lost within an ecosystem by expenditure of ATPs to run activities or released as heat into the atmosphere. So energy is not, we don't create energy, we just capture it and you can convert it to different forms of energy, chemically and so forth. Okay, so physical laws govern energy flow and chemical cycling. So ecologists study the transformations of energy and matter within ecosystems. Okay, do you remember this? At each step of a food chain, what percent of the energy is lost? 90%. Good, 90%. There's only 10% of the energy that is actually transferred to the next chemistry applied. You probably learned this, I would think, in semester 1. The first law of thermodynamics states that energy cannot be created or destroyed, it can only be transformed. And the second law is the law of entropy, which says that there is a tendency of disorder in the universe. Disorder or chaos. Okay. But the original sense heat. So there's the second law, is the law of entropy, which is a tendency towards disorder. And it's up to the living things to spend energy to keep things in order, diffusing away or going into disorder. Does it take more energy on your part? We'll do a macro example. Does it take more energy on your part to let your messy room go or to clean it up? To clean it up, you've got to spend energy bend over, you got to use muscles, you've got to do thinking power, you've got to do all this other stuff and organizing. So the living things have to spend order to keep things from going into chaos and disorder. Okay, so the law of conservation of mass states that matter ecosystems. So this is the law of conservation of mass. The other was energy. Matter is anything that occupies space and has mass. In a forest ecosystem, most nutrients enter as dust or salt, and ecosystems are open systems absorbing energy and mass and releasing heat and waste products. We know about autotrophs and heterotrophs, right? Autotrophs make their own food, usually photosynthesis, with that magic substance of chlorophyll contained in a chloroplast. And heterotrophs are other eaters, and we are heterotrophs because we have to eat either plants or animals in order to get our sources. We have to undergo, so do plants, undergo cellular respiration. They eat plants. The secondary consumers, which eat the herbivores, they would be called carnivores because they eat other animals. To tertiary, which is the third consumers, carnivores that feed on other carnivores. Again, think about our losing 90% at each level of this. There's also another very important part in the ecosystem, and these are detritivores or decomposers. They're consumers that derive their energy from detritus, which is non-living organic matter. It could be the chemicals, it could be a dead body of a plant or an animal, and they are returning the actual chemicals, the elements, back to the soil so that the plants can use, because the plants absorb those minerals and those chemicals from the soil. Prokaryotes, bacteria, and fungi are important detritivores. We know the fungi are, we talked about them, and many of the prokaryotes as well. Decomposition connects all trophic levels. Okay, what is a trophic level?
Level of the food chain on which an organism eats or
Right.
consumes their nutrients.
Okay, would you repeat that again nice and loud,
A
please?
level of the food chain depicting how the organism either consumes or produces their nutrients / food.
Right. So it's their feeding level. Okay, good. Okay, so here you have some basidiomycetes. Remember basidiomycetes? The fungus? The fungus among us? Okay. Breaking down this decaying log, the remains of a tree. Okay, so here's kind of the big picture. This is all kind of review for you, but be sure that you do totally understand it. The sun is the original source of all energy. The primary producers capture this energy and produce glucose or sugar, which is usually the original fuel. And then the primary consumers eat primary producers, secondary and tertiary consumers eat, the ones below them. But all of these have arrows going to the detritus because they eventually die, or it could even be the breakdown of fecal matter, from these animals. So microorganisms and other detritivores, they're always, so they really do affect all levels, and eventually it goes back to the primary producers because these chemicals that have been returned to the soil from the broken down, dead, or decaying matter are then used by the plants in order for their nutrients, their minerals, in order to photosynthesize and to grow. And there's always some heat, all of these, some heat given off that is not captured. So energy flow is in the orange, and chemical
chemical cycling is in the blue. So that's primarily what we're talking about right now, chemical cycling and energy flow. Understanding these concepts. I think everybody, this is my own personal belief, I think everybody who runs for political office of any sort needs to be taking a first year college biology course again in order to understand the basic concepts of how things work. Probably physics too, but at least biology, because I'm a little biased because I like biology so much. But people don't understand. People make these bizarre comments with absolutely not much basis in fact. One of my goals for you, and I don't mean just me, but our whole biology program, is to make you good critical thinkers. So that when you see advertising or you see somebody making a statement that is like way out there with no ground in scientific fact or concepts, you can criticize that intellectually. You can, and then do what you can to try to make this world a better place. My soapbox is this, is if there are people that are going to run this world that are intelligent people like you, with educational backgrounds like you, as you continue to go on, I feel pretty good about the future. Because I think my generation has just about flown it. And we look forward to you and your youthfulness and your ability to apply things that you've learned and to really think them through and see how everything affects everything else. Ecology is about that. Everything affects everything else. It's a ripple effect. And to ignore some of these things like climate change and just other really not very intelligent decisions. It scares me. But I'm one that says, let's hand it over to you all. You all, it's your time. Soon. To run with it. Okay, my little soapbox, okay? Ecosystem energy budgets, the extent of photosynthetic production sets the spending limit for the ecosystem's energy budget. So we talk about money budgets, financial budgets. We talk about energy budgets. And the base of this, usually you talk about a pyramid shape. The producers are on the bottom, and then you have the first level consumers next, second level consumers, and then you have just a few at the top that are the top carnivores. And if you don't have, and this is another critical point, if you don't have as much photosynthetic production as what you used to have, isn't the pyramid going to tumble? Because the base supports the others. So as we continue to dump garbage into the oceans and oil spills and all this stuff, we are killing off the zooplankton and particularly the phytoplankton. And phytoplankton, of course, are the little microscopic algae, which produces most of the world's oxygen. The phytoplankton in the waters, all of it together, or all the terrestrial plants?
Water.
Okay, let's just say, how many people, just gonna guess or vote, how many people say the terrestrial? And you know what, most of us, I think, at one time or another would have said that, and I probably would have too. But it's all those little tiny microorganisms that produce more of the world's oxygen together than all the land plants do. So the more that we keep dumping stuff in oceans and lakes and ponds, the more we're gonna start reducing the world's oxygen. Now, the opposite problem we're gonna run into here with these next few chapters is the carbon dioxide levels, the global warming situation. The carbon dioxide level and the methane. But we need them. And they take gallons and gallons of water. What happens if our water supplies start getting low? We're not gonna be able to feed livestock. Everything affects everything. So the amount of solar energy reaching the Earth's surface limits photosynthetic output to, and only a small fraction actually strikes photosynthetic levels. What happens if something happens to the sun?
We all die.
So the total primary production is known as the ecosystem's gross primary production. GPP, that sounds like the GNP, gross national product. GPP is measured as conversion of chemical, but net primary production is a GPP minus the energy used by primary producers for respiration. Okay, I'm not gonna get into all the math of this, but it's like your paycheck. You have a gross amount, which really, it should be, the part that's the grossest should be the net. Because they've taken so much out of the gross. Okay, so the gross is the total amount that you actually earn, minus all the taxes and everything else that gets taken out. And then that's your net. So that's a good example of gross. Standing crop is a total biomass of photosynthetic autotrophs at a given time. And ecosystems vary greatly in this product and the contribution to the total production on Earth. We measured biomass in the Radish Lab, which has to do with this. So let me just close with this. Tropical rainforests, estuaries, and coral reefs are among the most productive ecosystems per unit area. What's happening to the coral reefs?
They're dying, getting bleached.
They're being bleached or leaching of colors because of the warming. Even 1 degree difference in temperature is enough to ruin the balance of nature within an ecosystem. And we're seeing 2 degrees and more in just a short period of time of temperature. So that's just another fact that helps to support the fact that, well, we're gonna see the extinction of some animals eventually too because of that. So let's quit today and we'll continue with